Impact of where they are right now before they work with you is that it's not working efficiently, it's not working effectively. Then when they do work with you, they start to see that value because you've solved those problems that you pointed out. AI has become huge for us. It's not going to replace our employees, it's going to be an aid for employees. So the reason why I love LinkedIn is because people are there for business. They're not there to just look around. They're not there to just be an onlooker. They want to actually learn and they want to interact with people to either work with or to sell with. What's up, people? Before we get into this video, please make sure to subscribe, like, and comment down below so we can get bigger, better guests for you every single week. Let's get straight into the video right now. What is up, people? Welcome back to another episode of Kickoff Sessions. We're back with a Q&A session. I think it's time, after the past month or two, there's been a lot of things going on, a lot of changes in the podcast, in the business. So it's time for a little Q&A session. Just came back from the US last week, and now we want to catch up with people, get some feedback. We've got some great questions, basically going very detailed on what we kind of want to focus on for 2024. A lot of the audience are building businesses, have businesses, want to get clients, want to get customers, want to improve even their habits and how they're actually going to get more out of the year, which is going to be very important. So we're going to bang through these questions, which is going to be super interesting. Now, we have some big podcasts on the way. We've a 200 episode on the way as well. So make sure to subscribe down below and just keep the engagement coming along as we're building and constantly building. So idea, as always, is we get Q&A questions from Instagram. Answer these as clearly and as simple for you as possible. If you want to follow on Instagram, you can go in and check it out and also submit questions for another episode. So let's get straight into the detail. First question here, I think, is very interesting to start with. Best way to get clients through LinkedIn. So the reason why I love LinkedIn is because people are there for business. They're not there to just look around. They're not there to just be an onlooker. They want to actually learn and they want to interact with people to either work with or to sell with. If you compare that to TikTok, Twitter, even Instagram, people aren't exactly there to buy. People do buy on the platform, but they're not there to buy. Whereas on LinkedIn, you have a very strong, engaged audience. The average income of someone on LinkedIn is over $75,000. That means your product or service can get to the exact customer you need super easily, and people want to buy the stuff. Also, on LinkedIn, you're going to have a bunch of C-suite executives, business owners, entrepreneurs, founders, people who need your solutions, people who need your products, people who need your services. And they're there either to interact with people or they're reading constant feeds, right? So therefore, just at a basic level, we have a very strong audience that we can sell into on LinkedIn. Now, there's two ways to go about how we can actually get clients on LinkedIn. There's the outbound strategy and there's the inbound strategy. The inbound strategy is content. So I started off with kickoff sessions on LinkedIn 3 years ago because I thought that more of my audience would be on there, even though some of them are spread across different platforms. And we're just writing very clear, concise content that basically makes me known by other people. It's to spread awareness. It's to make yourself known on the platform. And why that becomes valuable is because when you eventually go to speak to people, they'll realize you're not a robot, okay? Because you'll have put out your good, decent content on your topic. So let's go back to what my company does. We launch and grow podcasts, right? On LinkedIn, I talk about launching and growing podcasts. I talk about how to do it, the values in it, the principles, the theories, the practice, the techniques, and the guides, right? And because I do that, I'm building 1, authority, 2, influence, and 3, an audience. That audience then truly wants to fuck with you, and they'll either buy from you or recommend you even to their friends. And over the years, you see yourself slowly building up that audience, and you're not trying to do it on a pretense of getting something from someone. That's not an idea at all. They'll eventually become known to you, and that's how opportunities arise. You increase the surface area of your luck by just doing more volume, more content. Now, writing good content has many different benefits beyond just getting clients, right? Because you learn how to distill your thoughts, you learn how to educate, you learn how to inform, and you'll also be able to just become better at your craft, right? I become a better podcaster when I write about podcasting all the time. So that's the inbound strategy. From there, then we get inbound opportunities. People will come in and say, hey, I like your stuff. How can we work together? Or can you talk me through what you do and so on. And then we're getting them onto sales calls. And that's a story from another day about how we're actually converting them. But that's the inbound way. The outbound way is where we've had a lot of success as well, because the problem I have with inbound is that if you're a small profile, then you're not really getting enough eyeballs. your exposure is quite limited and capped to a certain degree. If I only have 6,000 followers, which I do on LinkedIn, I'm only exposed to that amount. Now that's fine because my niche is very specific. I'm not appealing to broad-based markets. However, you are limited. So the opposite is where we go to people. And we've done a very, very big program and core and basically effectively program within our company on this, our outreach strategy, which is using tools like Sales Navigator. There's another tool called Apollo. And basically what you can use is a way to find your ideal customer. So if I'm trying to find, CEOs of a $10 million company, I can use that with these tools. So I can find a list, I can basically build a list, and then you can start doing your outreach. And again, people are so used to getting emails on messages on LinkedIn that you have to be creative with your outreach, right? Because I've been running my podcast for so long, I actually got really good at writing emails and just writing clear, concise, informative emails. So when I switched into being, quote unquote entrepreneur, it was easier for me to reach out to people because I kind of knew what they were looking for. And that's the beauty of LinkedIn, is because if you are, a marketing agency, if you have a SaaS platform, whatever you have, you can pretty quickly find out where your ideal customer is on LinkedIn. You can find CEOs, CMOs, COOs, whoever you want, and then contact them directly. Now, again, don't be an absolute robot in this. Be very kind, be very genuine, and try to find exactly what they're looking for, right? So if you reach out to someone, the way I describe it is understanding their current state. So where they are currently in their business. Do they have any problems, any pains? What are some of the challenges they have? And what are the future state that they want to get to? Do they want to increase revenue? Do they want to decrease costs? Do they want to decrease the time? Do they want to improve their efficiency and improve their sales, right? That's generally how business works. You either increase sales, decrease time, decrease costs, or increase revenue, right? There's like two levers to pull. And if your product or service solves those problems, my first step here is understanding exactly what that individual wants and then creating a system around there to reach out to. So I like to play both inbound, outbound. We've had great success with it from our business. It works. Whenever someone says outreach is dead, they obviously just are shit at outreach, right? You just need to be good at that craft and you're going to be able to get clients very, very easily. This is an interesting question. How to make clients know the value of your services? You have to be able to understand the gap of where they're at. If you're delivering a service to someone, let's say you're developing websites. If you're developing websites for people, and if you just say, I make your website, they're like, okay, so does a free Wix page or a Shopify page or whatever. But if you can understand where clients currently are in their process, so let's say they have low sales, low conversion, they're not getting the right engagement, they're not getting enough site speed or clicks and so on and so forth. And if you can articulate that current state and the impact it has on their business, they'll see that this is a problem. They'll identify that, whoa, our website is like poor, for instance, in this example. And as a result, we are losing out on business. We're spending too much on ads. We're overspending on all these different areas because our website is not optimized. So you're able to clearly articulate the impact of what you do, right? The impact of where they are right now before they work with you is that it's not working efficiently, it's not working effectively. And then when they do work with you, they start to see that value because you've solved those problems that you pointed out. You're basically describing, as I mentioned before, the future state. So if we fix that problem, which let's say is you want to improve their conversions and make them more sales. So at the moment, the company is making 1 million to make things simple. And then with your changes, you make the company 1.5 million. You've increased their revenue by 50%, right? And being able to clearly articulate that will make them realize that you are someone who's like worthwhile and you're someone that they should value a lot, because the opposite is also true. If they don't make these changes, then the business will keep on going the wrong way. And people are reluctant to change. They don't really want to change for the most part, right? Because one, change is like risky. Two, like change is like painful. So you want to be able to showcase the benefit of what you're doing by making this change. And when you've made that change, you have to be able to relate that back. So something that I learned from Shan Hanif was keep your clients up to date. Like, let them know when you have wins. Don't just be, too too privatized about what you're doing with your work. Like if you're getting good wins, share it with them. We do a weekly check-in with our clients whereby I send them a Loom video. I'll go over the data, the performance, some metrics, some areas to improve and so on. And then we also share just quick wins. So if we have a podcast that's growing really fast with one of our clients, I'll be throwing into the Slack channel screenshots of that working, because it just shows that what we are doing is working. And then these people will realize that what you're doing is effective. And that's what becomes very valuable as a result, right? Because otherwise it is difficult, but it kind of reminds me of like when you're working a 9 to 5, people don't get appraisal, right? They wait, once or twice a year, and then they get some feedback and it's usually quite negative, or it's not exactly what they want. And the reason why is because people are not good at conveying the story of what they do. Storytelling is incredibly important. So if you can articulate that and the impact of that, it's going to become a very strong aspect for you to really double down on this year. Best way to stand out in the market. It's about becoming a category of one. The only way to stand out is to not play the fool to competition. Don't be looking around you what these dudes are doing on fucking money Twitter and renting Lambos and all this stuff. Stop trying to be like somebody else and just be like yourself. Having that element of uniqueness will make you stand out, right? That's the whole idea of standing out. If you're trying to be like someone else, you're never going to actually really break through. It's the same for your business, right? So let's talk on an individual level first. If I'm just trying to be like the hottest podcaster, I'm not going to really get through any kind of barriers, because people are going to constantly compare and contrast me to someone who's probably better than me. But if I try to truly stand out on my own and just try to be Darren Lee, who likes to record podcasts, who's building this business, who likes to work out, who likes to travel, who likes to do his own things, then you become someone who's distinguishable, right? And then as a result, people recognize you for your values and what you actually stand for, and also what you don't stand for, right? If I have strong values around working hard, having a high level of excellence, having really good standards within our business, and someone comes to me and they're looking for a cheap solution, they know that Darren Lee isn't the person to go to, because I'm not offering a cheap solution, because I have a high level of excellence. And these are kind of like undercurrents you're trying to build as someone within your own brand, right? Because within your own brand, that's how you're going to stand out at an individual level. So that's how people basically recognize me. And then the other aspect then is with your business, right? There is thousands of marketing agencies, there's thousands of ad agencies, there's thousands of like media companies, but what makes yours actually distinguishable is your own personal experiences, right? It's how you implement that solution based off what you've done. So let's take my example. I've been podcasting for so many years, it's nearly coming up to 4 years this year. We're able to take these lessons and bring them into with our clients. When someone asks me, how do I know it's going to work? It's because I have done it myself. That's what makes our business stand out. It's because you have to be someone who's gone through the 200 episodes, who's produced 500 episodes for clients, to be able to say that this is why we stand out. And this is our distinguishing factor. And that's in the things that we do. But it's also about how you approach it. It's how you interact with clients. It's how you have customer success and customer satisfaction. How you're able to keep clients and keep customers around is mainly based on your values and how you position yourself in the market. So when people come back around and they say, we're looking for someone to build and launch a podcast, it's not like, whoa, we got loads of these competitions. It's like, we're going to work with Darren because he's someone who takes a lot of pride and passion in his work and has a high level of work involved there. Also is the same for any product. So let's forget about the individual. If we're thinking of like a genuine product, like Apple's product, yes, of course, people know like Steve Jobs and everything. But now at this point, people are just buying the iPhone because they know that the iPhone is exceptionally high quality. They have that individuality, and that's the ultimate just standing on its own, right? It's not competing. It's not trying to be better than anyone else. It's just trying to be in its own category. And by virtue of being in its own category, it's already better than everyone else. And that's why you'll see me often not kind of, I guess, give in to those quick wins on the internet, you know, like what's trending, what's hot, what people are talking about, the Rolexes and stuff like this, is because you're ultimately putting yourself in a category of other people. And then you're, even though that could be like a high prestigious category, you're still just in someone else's category. All right, people, we're just going to take one short little break for a little update about Podcast University. So if you enjoy podcasts like this and you want to start your own podcast, head down to the links down below to Podcast University. This is a learning platform that I've built to help people like you build, launch, and scale your own podcast. I wasted many years doing this, making it all up as I go. So I put everything together in a very seamless and easy to follow course for you guys to follow and just learn exactly how to do it. So if you want to bypass a lot of the mess with your podcast, check out the links down below to Podcast University, and it will show you exactly how to launch and scale your own podcast. What is the gap between an average business and an exceptional business? It's mainly based on product. What is the product that you have and what are you solving, right? Because there's a bunch of features out there, there's a bunch of products out there, but it's really about how you're solving one clear problem. If you're not solving an actual problem, you're just going to become one, redundant, or two, just basically drifting. And even if you are solving a problem, but your product isn't exceptional, then you're not really going to kind of push on as a result. This goes for startups, SaaS companies, service businesses. If you're getting great results as a service business, it's going to grow continuously because by extension, my client will speak to someone else, a prospect will speak to someone else and refer them to me, and will constantly be moving forward because you are someone who has excellence in what you've done. So that's why social proof works. Social proof works because people have gotten really good results from people and then therefore they want to go and talk about it. That's one element. The second element is actually the element of virality within the business. It's like how much can we get this idea to spread that it's going to be effective, right? And Seth Godin spoke about this a lot with the sneezer effect. Sneezer effect is that you have an idea or you have a product that's so good that if someone sneezed, the idea spread. So let's take, for example, my podcast company. If someone was able to, let's say I produce a podcast for this individual and then their friends are like, whoa, that's amazing. Like, who did that? They're like, oh, this guy did it. Darren, he did that podcast. That's how the idea spread and they want to go and talk about other people. And that's how you have this disproportionate returns. It's asymmetrical because it's not that we all as entrepreneurs work really hard and get the results. It's we as entrepreneurs work hard to get a specific outcome that drives large asymmetrical returns. And as an entrepreneur, you're looking for those asymmetrical returns. What is a unit of input that you can deploy that can have crazy returns? And that goes back to what you are specialized in, what you enjoy, what you've experienced in. And for me, for example, because I just love the craft and the game of playing this podcast game, it makes more sense for me to focus on this versus something completely alien to me like software engineering, which I've had experience with in the past, but it just doesn't suit me as an individual. So my unit of output in software engineering is not as effective as sitting down, recording good podcasts, and teaching people how to do this at a high level. That's just how you're going to stand out in general, and it's a good way to really position yourself. Why do creators and entrepreneurs quit before taking off? I think the idea is it's all based on the fact that people are getting into it for the wrong reasons. They think that you hop into becoming an entrepreneur or becoming a creator, becoming a podcaster, becoming a writer, and it's just going to like all clicking together. Because we're kind of used to, when we're younger, doing average work in school and average work in a 9 to 5 and still getting paid and still getting it up into the next class and still getting into university. When you just do a little bit of work, whereas the market is the ultimate end individual who will describe and critique your work to everyone because they are the final judge. They're the judge, jury, and executor. The market will determine everything. And because the market will determine everything, that's going to really influence how you're going to stand out and stay in the game long enough. And it's just that Nike stick growth effect. It's going to take a long time. It's going to take longer than you anticipated. And it's going to be harder than you ever anticipated. But if you stay in the arena, it's by virtue you're going to grow. And it's very simple. If I have 10 videos, let's say on YouTube, and they all do 10 views, right? That's like 100 views. If I have 100 videos on YouTube and they're all doing like 100 views, it's 100 by 100, right? It's just growing as a result. And what you'll find is that the compound interest from you staying in the arena is that your work will get literally incredibly better over time. And I'm seeing this in our company all the time because we focus on, let's say, thumbnail design. We're just so narrowed into it. When we look back at our thumbnails from a month ago, they're night and day different because we're very, very narrow focused. And because people are looking for those quick wins, or they're getting into it for the wrong reason, either try to make money or so on and so forth too quickly, they're not going through the learning curve that is required. And they also don't want to improve, right? People just want to get in, do their work, get out, get paid, right? They're not willing to like set aside time, maybe at the weekends, maybe over the holiday period, maybe in the evening, to actually learn more about what their actually problem and solution is. So the first aspect there is stay in the arena, the compound effect. But I think a more important factor here is time, right? Time is so important as an entrepreneur or a creator. The longer you can apply your actual time into this, is going to be very, very effective, right? Because you can work hard, but if you don't stay in the arena long enough, it's not going to be effective. Now, why that's important is because that's what feeds into focus. You heard me speak about focus quite a lot in previous podcasts. And the reason why that's important is because if you don't have clearly defined focus in your ideas, your thoughts, and your business, you're just going to drift. If I'm focused on 7 different bullshit side hustles and I'm trying to fill the cup of 7 different things I'm doing, I'm effectively doing none of them. So let's say you have 7 things and you're making $1,000 from each. You're making $7,000 a month. Fantastic. If you just went down to 1 and scaled and built the shit out of 1, you could get that 1 to $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a month in just a couple of months of clear focus. And that's all that's required. It's just being able to go very, very deep on one individual area for multiple months, right? And it's not forever, but it will be a season of your life whereby you need to have a specific focus and very narrow focus. And it's boring, right? I wake up and I have my podcast to take care of, the company to take care of, bringing in clients, retaining clients, recording podcasts, getting ideas, researching guests. It's the same stuff that I was doing a year ago. But now that I'm doing it at a higher level, it's like, it's the same shit, but I'm getting way better returns from it. We're growing faster, we're making way more money, and I'm enjoying it more to a degree because it's more of like the art and the craft of it. It's literally the turning pro effect, right? It's the fact that you view your craft like an art, and as a result, you have those crazy asymmetrical returns as we discussed. But again, without the focus, let's play the opposite of the focus. Let's say you do the 7 different side hustles or 4 different side hustles. 1, you're going to drift, so time is going to get you. And then it only takes 1 or 2 little blips for you to fly way down. And that's the thing here, is that we want to build this like consistent, repeatable growth machine and business. And how we're doing that effectively is by having a very strong foundation. Because if you don't have a strong foundation and it's all kind of jiggly, one little earthquake or tremor drops everything. So I much prefer the approach to build slow, be very, very patient, and build the bricks one by one, and then you'll grow over time, versus trying to scale it up super quickly, getting burnt out, and failing as well super quickly. And I often find this because it's the marathon versus sprint approach, right? A lot of people will get in, they'll get super excited, New Year's 2024, let's go, let's fucking crush it. And then they do a ton of work, do a ton of outreach, and it's only a couple of weeks later and they're burnt out and they're back to square one. So to stop doing that, I'd much prefer to operate at let's say an 8 or a 9 out of 10 and keep that going year in, year out, versus going hell for leather for a few weeks and then end up burnt out. So being very strategic, it's also a big area that I want to focus on this year because we're not just starting out anymore, I guess I put it that way. Our business has evolved in such a way that it's a bit more mature. We have a full team. We're doing individual tasks. We're keeping things running. So the idea of me just running aimlessly around every single day is kind of thankfully a little bit over. And now it's about structural energy and where to exert the best amount of energy, as I mentioned, to be able to grow effectively. What are your thoughts on artificial intelligence and adding it to your business? AI has become huge for us. It's not going to replace our employees. It's going to be an aid for employees. How I imagine this is if you imagine an orchestra and the guy who, runs the orchestra in the front and he manages everything together. He's a key part in that. He's the central team in that, and he's the one who binds everyone in the orchestra together. That's how I imagine people should be with AI. we run, a company and there's multiple different clients and whatnot. We want to use AI to leverage speed, efficiency, and quality where we can. The issue I have with some of the tools in 2023 is that the quality just was not there. Video editing, audio editing was fucking terrible. Some of the sounds were so bad. It was actually crazy. Graphic design was very poor back then. Even the copy was super generic. It was like, do you want to grow your business? It was just not cool. Not cool at all. But 6 months later, it has improved significantly. So the way I position it and our team positions it is we do a monthly call, we have a catch up. Every individual department, production, design, operations will give their thoughts on what's happening in AI, trends that are happening, what are the tools we're using, how can we improve our efficiency? Because again, this element is of leverage. You only have code, capital, code, capital, resources, so labor and media. So of the code, this falls into code, we want to be able to use this to our advantage to either one, make more money, or two, improve the quality or improve the efficiency. So I much prefer our editors to use a editing tool that chops it down super quickly in 20 seconds, and then they spend the next 2 to 3 hours fine-tuning it, doing animations, doing like a small little changes, even like the color effects and audio effects and so on, so that they become very, very high quality versus doing like cut here, which is just not the way you should do it anymore. So you need to have your finger on the pulse with AI in 2024. You need to be able to understand exactly what your business needs with it and how you can leverage it to save costs for yourself, and also how you can scale up your actual team with it. I think what's important here as well is how we move with this. So how can you stay up to date with what's happening? So it's me sitting on like GPT 4.5 or whatever the fucking number it is these days, and just figuring out like, okay, how would I write this? And how does it compare like this? And how can I just do split tests from it and understand it and let it like review my writing more and my content more? Because otherwise you're going to be 100% left behind. And I think the next phase is all about doing these kind of integrations with the business, right? So ways to improve like automation in the back end, ways to be able to, I don't know, use it as like an assistant, even like reviewing like pages and documents and something like this. Just small ways that we will even think about using, but for our core business, it's becoming very important, right? And the reason I say this is because if you just get the basic AI stuff, it just looks so shit and it's so obvious. But you want to be the person who is selling the shovels, not digging for gold. So when people are digging for gold and they're looking to use AI to replace their business completely, they're kind of chasing the wrong thing. But you want to be someone who's like selling the shovel, whereby you use AI and you leverage AI and you use it to just propel yourself forward, but not just completely like do a 180 with your business. Because you'll find if you just start completely automating stuff that customer satisfaction will go down, customer experience will go down, the quality will go down, your churn will go up, a shit ton of stuff will go wrong in your business, and as a result, you'll go out of business. So there's absolutely a trade-off, 100%, and you need to be very aware of it, which most people are to some degree, but just being very clear with what you're going to do with it and how to integrate it will save you a ton of money and also make you a ton of money as well. Reflection on your time in UCC, which is my university, and any positive takeaways. Thanks for the tutorials, by the way. So university is an interesting one. Do I regret going to university? Kinda, in some way. Because I was always finicking with shit when I was younger. I was like running events. I was running like mystery tours. I was running like club events. I went on to like selling like stuff on Shopify, made a lot of changes when I was like quite young like that, and kind of went down that kind of entrepreneurial pursuit. But I just kind of did what everyone else was doing. And looking back at it now, I probably just didn't need to do it. That was the thing. Because even when I left university and got into some like prestigious companies, that experience was a lot of bullshit, but I went into more startups then, which was much more helpful towards what I want to build today, right? But I wouldn't have been able to get there sooner without it. Now, do you need university? For some occupations, you do. Doctor, dentist, lawyer, whatever. The basic shit, right? The more fundamental things that people go to university for. But like liberal arts, writing, business is the funniest one. Like, why the fuck would you sit in a lecture room hearing someone talk about like growing a business who has never had a business? It's like going into a gym and getting a fat personal trainer who's never even been a personal trainer. So let's just get advice from someone who's just fat and lazy, who sits down all day and eats Cheetos, and they're going to train you to become a bodybuilder. But better again, they're going to train you to run an ultra marathon. You wouldn't do it. It sounds ridiculous. And that's because it is ridiculous. But university is the only profession that people learn from people who haven't gone and done the work. We have business professors who've never had a business, right? They've had no idea about how the real world works. They're just quite old and they're looking at traditional ways of looking at things. They will talk to you about some marketing framework that's going to scale your business, and it doesn't even apply. You don't sit down as a business owner and think, what marketing framework can I just churn out continuously? And this is at odds with it. Maybe you might do it when the business is growing or something like this. But in the beginning, you're just looking to sell your products and to build a business. And you're going to learn way more from building a fucking business than learning about how to build a business. And even take it from someone like myself. Even with my podcast, it started off as a careers podcast because I had a career in finance and so on. And then it moved into the online business space while I was still in finance. So I felt like a fucking massive hypocrite because I wasn't actually doing what I was talking about. But then I had left that to build a business and it just clicked. That's why the podcast even got better, because I was sharing my own experiences because I was someone who had gone and done it then at that point, or I was doing it at least. And because I was doing it meant I was learning a lot better. Now, what I would say is the lessons I've had from my podcast up until that point, I was able to implement. Getting clients, retaining clients, building out software, using social media, all this kind of stuff that I've been learning from the podcast and learning from my guests, I was able to really, really double down on. So it was a huge benefit to me. But like, if you're trying to learn something, put down this podcast and just fucking go and learn it, right? So that's my issue with university, is the fact that it's like delayed, right? It's like super delayed in terms of like, you learn something and in 4 years time you might implement it. And like, I was learning like marketing and management in university and none of it ever came into effect, like ever. So it was kind of a waste of time. We did have an element on software engineering, which if I wanted to become a software engineer, it would have been helpful, but I didn't, and I didn't want to. So that was an issue. Now I did study like information systems, which is like kind of software engineering, kind of like business, what even is business. And it was kind of beneficial to some degree, but could I have avoided it? 100%. Biggest opportunities in content you see in 2024. So the challenge going forward for people is going to be how to stand out with your content. With the rise of AI content, GPT, all this kind of stuff, everyone is going to sound the exact fucking same. You're going to need a way to stand out, and a way to stand out is this. It's video. It's going to be able to go in long form, go on podcasts, speak about your ideas, speak about your values, speak about your thoughts, and be able to really connect with people. The human touch is being completely lost. People are just coming up with generic content about 7 different tools to improve your productivity, whereas most people, they want someone to be there that's relatable and that they can work with alongside. That's going to be the way forward, is how do we connect with people? That's why I run these Q&As. I want to build that community of people who feel like that they're connected to kickoff sessions and they're learning directly from this podcast. That's going to be the biggest opportunity, because the only thing you can do here to stand out is going to be the stories and experiences that you can share. So let's go back to the 7 hacks to improve your productivity. If I put that into ChatGPT, I'd get some like random response of like, clean your fucking dishes and make your bed in the morning and all this kind of stuff. No one needs that. They want the relatable factor. They want to know what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, what I was doing in the past, why it wasn't working, why this is working, and how you can do that too. That relatability is becoming way more important. We want to hear the story. I want to hear that fuck up story where we weren't productive for so many years and then we made these changes and that's what happened. That's what makes your content stand out. So whether you're writing content for your business or writing content even as a creator and making things more engaging, we want to be able to connect with people on that personal level. And the best creators have an element of that emotional response when they're speaking to people. When they're speaking direct to that camera, they're making them part of the journey. That's the whole point, right? So with your content, yes, you're going to have the tactics. Yes, you're going to have the hot takes and the clips and so on. But you want to have that core message of how we're going to be able to resonate with people. So even with my podcast, I really try to get to the bottom of people's stories and some of the lessons that they've had as a result of what they're doing. And because we're doing that kind of forward-thinking approach, guests want to share a lot of their experiences. They want to balance the personal with the tactics. And that's why you'll have people like Justin Welsh on my show. The podcast did really well because people love to see Justin through that lens. Some of the stories he's had, he's raised some of the things that have worried him and made him, anxious and stuff throughout time, and his story in the past. And definitely recommend checking out that podcast because it was super interesting in terms of finding out a bit more about why he does what he does. And that's how you're going to stand out. So with that opportunity as well comes where is the opportunity? I do believe it's in podcasts, it's in long form. Opportunities in long form is incredibly powerful because a lot of people are neglecting it. They want to do the talking heads on Instagram. They want to do the TikTok dances. They want to do the tweets about Andrew Tate. They want to just do the basic shit. But if you want to be able to stand out, you need to go into long form like this and really share your individual perspective, right? Because you are someone who is an individual, who has substance, who has done shit in their life. And I would like people to trace back through their experiences and be able to tell that story a bit more. So if you look at stuff that have happened in my life, I went through the school system and then I went into big corporations, hated my life, was super miserable, started a podcast, then went from there into fast growth like tech startups, also kind of hated my life, wanted to build a business from it as a result, and went and built a business as a result of doing that. And that becomes very relatable to people because a lot of people fucking hate what they're doing, right? And I like as well that we're able to share that experience with people, and that's going to be a big part of what we do. 200 episode guest who is coming up for it. So I can't share the exact name, but it's going to be a big podcast. It's going to be out in the next week. We have our episode recorded from New York. We really went all out for this episode, and it's going to really get into the details of wealth, health, money, building, and how to live a better life. And I really, really do feel that people are going to really resonate with it. So when it does come out, please check it out. You can subscribe down here just to make sure that you're going to see it when it's out next week, hopefully. All right, guys, one short little update for Voex. I want to give a short little overview about my own company, my media company called Voex. So if you are a company or you are an enterprise looking to grow your brand and looking to grow your podcast, feel free to reach out to work with us at Voex. What we do is a fully fledged end-to-end management of your podcast. We take care of the strategy, the consulting, we take care of the growth, the management, we take care of all the editing, all the boring stuff so you can focus on creating good podcasts and growing your brand. If you want to grow your podcast and get to new users, if you want to grow your business, generate more revenue and all that good stuff, check out the links down below to Voex. You can follow through to schedule a call with our team, or else you can fill out the application form to see if you're qualified to work with us. Thank you. Best social media platforms for business: podcast, Instagram, Twitter, or LinkedIn. Here's the thing. They all work. It's not about what is better. It's about they all work, and it's about how do you apply your own focus to it. I would say go deep on one in the beginning. Do not spread yourself thin because you need to learn how they operate. I had a podcast for many years. We used LinkedIn for many years. And then after doing that for so long, we were like, all right, we have our systems built and our process built for the podcast. We were able to take that onto Instagram and then really focus on YouTube and just be able to scale up different platforms. But if it wasn't for going deep on one platform, then you'd never improve, right? Now, in terms of business itself, I mentioned LinkedIn being very effective because you can do like outreach, you can do inbound and so on and so forth, but they all do work, right? I do recommend using LinkedIn, but if you have following and engagement on Twitter, Twitter is a good place. People use Twitter for sales and business, use that. If you like Instagram, if you're doing info products, it kind of depends on the products, right? So I would say the info product, Iman Ghazi kind of approach kills it on Instagram because people are like, I want to learn more about building an agency. Here's a course for $997. Let me click on it, buy it frictionless. But then if you have a sales cycle, which we do, we need to speak to people, understand them, get through their discovery, so on. And that's when we use LinkedIn for, because we can validate and basically be able to find our right clients on LinkedIn. Same with the info product on maybe Twitter, or maybe service businesses work well on Twitter too. My kind of concern is that it's going to be lower value. That's one thing, is that you're not going to really sell a $60,000 contract through Twitter. I could be wrong in saying that, but that's my assumption. And then you have platforms like YouTube, which we use for our courses. They work really well through YouTube because it has a lot of volume. You get a lot of traffic on YouTube. So we work very well on YouTube to be able to sell courses, info products, and that's it. So they're the kind of main platforms. It depends on the product and the service. But look, if you just like Instagram, just focus on Instagram and just go very deep on Instagram and you're going to smash it. That's all that matters. How to break through a content plateau. Here's the thing. You're going to run out of energy every once in a while. You're going to get tired. You're going to get a little bit sick of the game. You're going to see your analytics drop and you're going to run into a bit of a plateau. The easiest way to break a plateau is to break your pattern. I would say just take a day or two off, do something different, go for a run, go to the gym, read, just kind of release and relax out of your mind a small bit, because you don't want to get too caught up in this content game where you're doing clip, 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 clip. Even yesterday, I didn't release a clip on Instagram and I was like, oh, I should really do it. And I was like, no, it's okay. You know, every once in a while, you can let these things pass and you want to be able to go back to center. So just first step is to center yourself. So train, eat well, rest. You could be overtired. You could be kind of, just not loving the process as much and not loving the game as much as the first step. The second step is have a review of what is your best piece of content. If you're on a social media platform, you can use like an analytics apps, and basically you want to pull up your best performing posts. So I would say pull up your best 5 to 10 posts on LinkedIn, your best podcasts on YouTube, and have a look at the common themes of them. You'll find a pretty quick common theme throughout all the episodes, and you want to be able to smash that episode or the content again. So I often find that if we have one way to write a piece of content or one way to create a particular episode, we should try repeat that message again, because if it worked in the past, it's what's working again. So breaking free of that is going to be very, very helpful. So looking at your best performing content and also experimenting with new stuff, right? We might record an individual video versus a podcast. We might want to do a couple more shorts instead of long text, but just trying to push the boundaries a small bit and push the kind of, envelope of what you want to do with your content and how you want to improve it will make a very big impact. It's kind of how you break a plateau. So first, reset yourself. Second is look at your top performing posts. And third is going to be about trying different forms of content. How does someone gain influence and authority? So influence is something I always talk about. It's how you're going to be able to win someone to your way of thinking. It's how you're going to be able to move industries. It's how you're going to be able to move your audience, how you're going to move your customers and your prospects. You need to have a way to influence individuals. And you do this through having authority. You have authority by your experiences, by your skills, and by the value you can provide people. If I show up to somewhere and I can speak fluently about podcasting and improving someone's podcast and making these changes and so on, that allows me to be an influential figure in that element. And you can use that to your advantage, of course, because the more influential you become, you're much more of a trusted advisor to companies, individuals. And that's the first step, right? So firstly, looking at the authority, we want to have the experience bucket. So whatever you're doing, do it better, do it deeper, clearer focus. Get some clear skills in that area. Are you a writer? Are you a content creator? Are you someone who's going to sales, marketing? Get really clear on those skills and learn more, right? I want to improve my sales, so I've bought a shit ton of books on sales and I read 20, 30 pages on sales every single day. And I want to get better at that. I'm focusing in on that skill and I want to really get better on that. And then we couple that up with experiences. If I have built this podcast, if I've built a business, I can speak fluently about it. And people who want to work or want to solve that individual problem, I can speak to them about that specific area. That's how you're going to build up the authority. And then on influence, then it's about how many times you've done it, how good are you at doing it, and how you can become the category of one. So 2 good books to mention on this is Category of One and also Key Person of Influence by Daniel Priestley. Daniel was on this podcast too. And that's about situating yourself, having that piece of deliberate I guess, standout factor to be able to become influential. Now, the last aspect of influence is media. You can't become someone, let's take an example. There can be lots of great engineers, but if no one knows what they do or what they've done, they're not influential because they're just, in their mom's basement. So to become influential, you do need media, and that can be social media, that can be a book, that can be like an ebook, it can be anything to do with media. But you want to be able to build that leverage so that you become someone who's influential in that area. And then as that stacks, as your social profile stacks, as your authority stacks, as your experiences stack, it's going to become inevitable that you can charge these higher, crazy prices that you honestly want to get to. If someone was to go and interview or to, let's say, hire someone like Mike Thurston to do like some fitness coaching or a fitness speech or a public speaking, he'd charge a lot of money. You have to pay him a lot of money because he's an influential figure in that aspect who spent years doing this. Okay, some good questions here about breaking habits and alcohol. So why do men struggle to quit drinking alcohol? The reason they struggle is because of all the external factors. You might think alcohol is an internal factor, that it's the lure of the drug that people want to follow and do consistently, but it's actually the external factors. External factors is what will my friends think, what will my peers think, what will people that I work with, which is crazy, right? What will my coworkers think if I stop drinking alcohol? That external pressure actually influences people much more than anything else, because it's not about, oh, what will I do in that one specific conversation. It's more about the identity that shifts from someone who wants to walk away from a bad habit. And you don't need to have a problem with alcohol to quit alcohol, to reduce alcohol. It is a problem because people feel pressured into doing it. And they feel that they can't step away from that game. And if they do, they're going to run into all sorts of troubles. People are going to say, why are you doing that? You've changed. Why aren't you like us anymore? People will start blocking you and stop engaging with you, which has happened to me, bear in mind. And they will start to not associate themselves with you anymore because that's a reflection of them as well, bear in mind, right? So it's that external factor that influences it. It's also the habit, because if you are someone who lives in Ireland or the UK, you might get used to going down to the bar to watch the football at the weekend and to eat some crisps and watch football. And that's a habit that you have to break. And it's like the habit now that I have of waking up and being healthy and fresh every single day. That's a habit that I had to implement, but now I can't break it. And that's what becomes interesting. If I don't get up and go for my walk and do all these different tasks, I actually get really anxious because I have a healthy habit that I've developed. And it's all about those small habits that we can eliminate. And that's what makes a big impact with your alcohol. And that's why people can't walk away from that. It's also social environment. So if I'm in a place like Ireland that has a lot of people that drink alcohol, it is very difficult for me to do something that doesn't involve it. At the weekend, going to the footy, going into the bar, going to a club, going out dating, going picking up chicks. You can't do those things a lot of times without alcohol in Ireland. So people feel like they can't step away from it. They're going to be the oddball, the weirdo. But embrace being the weirdo, because no one gives a fuck about people that are the exact same, right? If you're just the same, fiddling in, setting in with everyone else, you don't want to be that individual. You want to stand out. So I really think that's the first change, is the external environment. Then the internal stuff then is people don't have a substitute for the alcohol. It's not that they want to build $1 million business or get super shredded or improve their relationships or make more money or whatnot. They don't attach the opposite to giving up alcohol to something that's beneficial. Instead, they think, well, what will I do if I don't have a drink? It's like you fucking work on a goal. You get fit, you build a business, you go out, you do adventures, or you do something fun. You play football instead of watching it. You do more date nights. And people think that all the other stuff is just like taken care of. They have a girlfriend and it's a very repetitive relationship, but they think that they can't improve it. Whereas my relationship skyrocketed when I stopped drinking alcohol because our interests were just not about going out all the time. We'd spend time staying in, chilling, watching even a bit of TV, chilling with our dogs, adopting more dogs, doing other things that were much more interesting to us. And therefore we lived a life that was much more in alignment with us versus living a life that's in alignment with someone else's goal. What are the things you're giving up this year? So I have to be honest, I was looking very closely at my time over the last few months and looking at how I can improve things. So how can we improve things in the business, in my lifestyle, in my sleep, in my diet, in my pattern, everything. And one gap I had, which is actually kind of quite weird, was how much I was actually assigning towards like my health and fitness. I was not only going to the gym every day, which is what I want to do, which is what I'm still doing, but I was kind of just pissing about a lot of times. I was going to the sauna way too much, going to doing ice baths way too much, chilling in the sun a bit too much. And not that I was taking it easier, it's just that I was allocating more time to it. So my gym was further away. It was like 20, 25 minutes away. So I had to drive there, train, eat, and then drive back. So I noticed that a time sink I had was that I was allocating way too much time to just getting there and coming back. So I made a decision in December to step away from the more generic like gyms, the more ones that you'd find people to like hang out with basically, and just focus on the art and the craft of training when I'm training. So an hour or even less. We've changed, me and my coach, our training schedule. So now we're down to as little as 30 minutes a day of training. And that's clear, dedicated training to, I did a leg session today in 35 minutes. And if I didn't have this new way of training whereby I'm in a quiet gym, I'm in somewhere that no one really knows and I'm just grinding it out, then I actually wouldn't be able to get it done. And I've been able to optimize my time a lot better. I've been much more efficient, much more effective. I've been able to get more work done and just chill the fuck out. When I was in America for the last few weeks, I was going to bed really early and waking up really early and feeling way more rested. So I was getting to bed around as early as 8:30, 9 p.m. And I was up at 5 a.m., able to get my work done and get my work done pretty early. And it was great. And I loved it. I had way more time in my day. And when I'm here and when I'm in Asia, I often find I was going to bed quite late because I was very stuck for time. I was always like behind and I was chasing and I was rushing. So I was like, okay, how can I optimize my time, get back my time, win my time back? And this is how I'm doing it. So move to a gym that's like a mile from my house. I don't necessarily train with Elise all the time, which means going to the gym with her. You know, she can go to the gym when she wants to. I'll go to the gym when I want to. I just get in, get out, come back. Same with my food as well. I have my food fully outsourced. All my meals are taken care of by a restaurant, and they will send me the food throughout the day, and then I'll just get my food in, right? So I don't cook, I don't clean. I know I've had cleaners for the last couple of years, but now I've kind of had a bit more focus on it too. So just making sure that like that's running effectively, basically. So I have much more of my time back to either focus on the business, the podcast, or just taking it easy. How do you build leverage? So leverage is defined as putting 1 unit of input in and getting 2 units of input back out. And again, the only way to build leverage is media, code, labor, and capital. It's the only 4 ways. No other ways to build leverage. So what we need to do is either be able to make more money, use the capital to make more money, create media forms so that we can grow on media with a disproportionate return, increase the amount of efficiency we have with code, which is like building a product, or labor, employ more people to do more stuff. Labor is the most difficult element of leverage to scale, but it's usually what people utilize first, which is even what we've done in our company. I used to edit all our files. I used to, once upon a time, edit these podcasts. Now I don't anymore, thankfully. I've never actually done my design, but we've used to be able to do more design work. Now it's all done, basically. So being able to utilize these different forms allows us to have more leverage. Now, what is the easiest form of leverage? It has to be media, because building code is difficult, making money is difficult when you don't have it, and also hiring people is impossible unless you have money. So leverage through media is the easiest form, which is social media, which is writing posts, coming out with content, so on and so forth. That's why I always focus on media as a leverage, because it's simple to return, right? We've done 34 million views on kickoff sessions. I haven't had to go and knock on 34 million people's front door and say, will you watch this clip? The internet does it for you. So you going forward, you need to be able to leverage media to be able to grow your business and your brand. It's the simplest form. It's kind of frightening that people don't leverage this, and you have to take me as an example. I'm from the back ass of Ireland, nowhere, no one knew who I was. I didn't have any one to do this for me. I was just releasing the content and it was growing. And then we were able to build the brand and grow it exponentially and have insane amount of guests on the show and everything as a result. So it all started with the first post. That's why you need to focus on the first post. Cool. So let's finish up with some quick fire. Actually, get rid of that. Hold on. Before we finish, actually, get rid of that. Let's get into some quick fire questions. So biggest guest of 2023. There was no biggest guest. All guests are treated equally. Some of the biggest experiences I've had for sure was either recording with Justin Waller or recording with Justin Welsh, two Justins. I love that approach. It was fantastic. We were able to get these really amazing podcasts. It was a big moment for me for sure. Some other questions here is how to break bad habits. It's very simple. Remove them from your life. So if you are someone who drinks alcohol or eats sugary sweets or so on, put them in the drawer. Don't put them in the drawer. Just don't buy them at all. Keep them outside. First step is just to eliminate. Have the elimination element. Get that bad habit out of your life. Goals for 2024. So what we want to do is focus on building this podcast as big as possible. Please like this video. Also, we want to be able to grow Voix as big as possible too. We're putting a lot of time on building a 7-figure business. That's the goal for this year. And we're doing that with very clear and consistent and concise, repeatable frameworks. Every day we go after it every single day. And I also want to create a bigger impact with this podcast. I want to connect with more people. I want to do another 30 million views this year with the right people, learning from the content, growing for all the right reasons. What is the infinite game? The infinite game is the game that doesn't end. You want to only play infinite games. And the reason why is because an infinite game has no end result, and there's no exit. And because you play infinitely, you're less worried on the result and more worried about the process. And this is where everybody falls down, because everybody is focused on how can I finish this task out? How can I just put out one post and goes viral and I make a load of money? That's the wrong way to view it. You will inevitably win if you just keep on playing the infinite game, because it doesn't end. And that's the beauty of doing it, right? Most people are just jumping in and out. They want to get in and they want to leave. And that's why they quit. And the only way to lose the infinite game is to quit. The only way to lose the game of entrepreneurship is to quit. Only way to lose the game as a creator is to quit. If you keep on playing, it leads to better returns and leads to a better satisfaction overall. You're not going to have to want to quit. You're going to be able to understand that you're playing this for a long term and you're going to want to win over the long term. It leads to much better satisfaction, because instead of being like, I want this right now, you know that you're going to keep on going with it. And that's tough to play, right? How do we know that we can play a game infinitely? You don't. So you want to just find something that you can do for 100 weeks. 100 weeks is 2 years. So if you can do that for 100 weeks, you're going to be golden. Start small. Follow the Sahil Bloom approach to 30 for 30. Do it 30 minutes a day for 30 days. And after that 30 minutes a day, you're going to build a really good habit, and you're going to be able to see, is this something that you really want to do for the long term? And then if it is, keep on going and you'll do it for 100 weeks. I guarantee it. So that's it. I want to wrap up this Q&A session. I want to say a massive thank you. I really appreciate it. If you did like this video, please subscribe down below. Also like the video, leave a comment. It also leads a lot of help as well with growing the channel. And until our 200th episode, I will see you next week. And don't forget to keep an eye out for it. Thank you.